And welcome to the Striped Onion Show, where we peel them back good. And now to our host, the man with the plan, Sergeant Peel.
All right, welcome back, friends. Welcome to the SOS Show, the Striped Onion Show. We've got a great show today with the, let's just say, the newest retired captain from the Georgia State Patrol, Mr. Andy Carrier. Great guy, great position of leadership in the mental health and critical incident stress management community. A well-known individual across the nation, in fact. So really good show today. Really good SOS call. Let me change that. Really great SOS call. So let's just get right to that part. But before we do that, let's go ahead and ask you, share this across your social media platforms. That's what's going to help us with the show and getting the word out to our first responders. And then, hey, afterwards, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. That's what we want. We want some interaction. We want to improve this show and make it better each time. Also, check out our website, thesosshow.com. Right there you can sign up for emails and information, and you'll get some notifications about shows and events that are coming up in our future. So we're working on this thing and getting it ready for you the right way. So just stay on top of it. Keep checking on it every now and then. But without further ado, I want to get right to the show. Here's our SOS call with Andy.
Hey, Andy. How are you doing today, brother?
Hey, Sarge, doing good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I am so glad, listeners, listen, y'all, I am so glad to have Andy Carrier on the show today. Andy's such a great guy. Let me tell you a little bit about Andy real quick. I'm going to tell you how I met him. This big joker, let me tell you this, he's a muscle guy. He likes this. In fact, he's so much a muscle guy, he's a muscle car guy. So let me just leave that there. We'll go back to that in a minute. But, you know, Andy is this big guy, intimidating-looking dude with one of the biggest hearts I have ever met out of a human being when it comes for the love of first responders and especially law enforcement. So, Andy, I know you've had a long career in it. I know you just recently retired out of law enforcement, but you did it kind of with a purpose. Mm-hmm. Why don't you take a minute, tell us just a real quick, tell our SOS friend just a real quick intro about yourself and your career in law enforcement.
Okay. You know, I had always, since my father-in-law was a Vermont state trooper, and you know, when the movie Super Troopers came out, I had to give him a real hard time, of course, because that's where the show is based. But because I had applied with the Vermont State Police before I came down here, I moved to Georgia in 1986 and had gone through their hiring process, and moved here. My mom and dad came down. My dad was superintendent of a paper company here, and I was in college up north and finished up there, then came down. And I had applied with the Sheriff's Department in Augusta, Richmond County, and got hired, was there for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and was applying with the Georgia State Patrol and was in the hiring process there when Vermont called. And I said, you know, my life is here now. If they had called maybe a year earlier, I might have gone back. So, you know, like anything else in life, I always wonder what could have been, you know. But when I see how rewarding what came to be, I don't have any regrets. So I don't really think that much about what could have been, because I ended up being pretty happy with what was and what is. And so, as I said, I applied with GSP, got hired in '89, and just retired. My effective retirement date was 2 weeks ago on September 1st. So I served 31 years with GSP and got involved 10 years ago with peer support. And I went from questioning what that was. I mean, I had a basic idea, but I didn't really know how meaningful and how beneficial and how useful it was until, you know, it's one of those things you can't really explain it until you're a part of it and you see the difference that it makes. And so the short of it is I got involved in peer support and realized how quickly how impactful it was on me personally and also with my career. And so much so that I went back and got a master's in social work from the University of Georgia. Don't hold that against me. And go Dogs. but and absolutely loved it. You know, and in some ways I felt like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School, you know, going with a bunch of younger people in their 20s and 30s. And, but, you know, in that program, there was people from all across the spectrum, different ages. And it's I did not realize it was a tough program to get into. You know, it's not just that you had a 4.0 in your undergraduate. They look at so many different things. And I did okay in undergrad, but I think I was the middle-aged white guy. So I fit that dynamic, and so I got in and absolutely loved it. Met some great people there, and just rock stars that, you know, just wanted to go out and save the world. And I fed off their enthusiasm. It was great. Hopefully they learned something from me in the process as well. But so I graduated, got licensed in Georgia, South Carolina, then ultimately later on in New York. Because I helped with one of their seminars up there. So it was just easier to be licensed. They didn't have reciprocity. So I had to get licensed there. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the short of it. And you know, no regrets. I even though I just retired, I feel like in a way I'm just getting started.
Well, and you say no regrets, and then you also said short. So I'm going to say two things right here. I think you did say a little bit too little about your career. I know several things about you, and I'm going to tell you. Let's talk about the Olympics in Atlanta in '96.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do for the Olympics?
So I was, you know, I feel like I had a Cinderella career, and it's not so much what I did or put myself in a position to do. It was just that someone liked me, someone that was in a position of authority or influence liked me. So it's almost like I feel like they brought me along for comedy relief. But it was, so I was picked, selected with 25 others to serve on the Olympic torch relay. So when the Olympic flame came in from Greece, it flew into California, Los Angeles, because that was the last time the Olympics was on United States soil in 1984, right. The LA Olympics. So so it flew in there, and we all went out to California about 2 weeks prior to the Olympic torch relay starting. And we got some training in with LAPD, the California Highway Patrol, U.S. Marshals. It was a lot of fun. But prior to that, we did a test run from, I believe it was Tallahassee to Jacksonville, Florida, and just did a test run on what it would be like. And it was even that was a lot of work. That was just practice. And so we started with the relay. We went from Los Angeles straight south to the Mexican border, then shot across into Yuma, Arizona, then did kind of a button hook, went back into San Luis Obispo, California, then straight north up the Pacific Coast Highway into Oregon and Washington, then went down into Oregon. I think we hit 42 states, or 43. Wow. And it was 3 months, and got to see and things that, you know, I felt like I lived 3 lifetimes on that. It was, you know, it was, we had worked a lot of hours, but made a lot of memories in the process. And I know my dad had told me that I needed to take notes, to maybe if I wanted to write something later about it. And that lasted for about 2 weeks. But I wish I had the whole time, because I'm starting to forget some things. And it's fun to talk with others that were on the relay, because we kind of fill in each other's gaps, you know, what the things that one forgets, the other remembers, and we can kind of complete the puzzle that way. But it was an absolute blast, and you know, a once in a lifetime thing to be able to do. And then all of us on the relay, we came back, and we had that week off, 1 week off, and then we all went to Athens and worked the Olympic Games there, which in Athens there was, of course, women's soccer, where we won the gold medal in '96. But all of soccer was there. Volleyball, gymnastics, and a few other things were in Athens, and we went and worked there that week. And it was, like I said, a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
Well, and I can say that in knowing some of the stuff that I've been involved with with you. I know that that's just one of your many highlights. That's one of my favorite ones, though, and I wanted people to hear that, you know, law enforcement, there's a whole lot more to it than just writing a couple of tickets and maybe writing a report. You know, Andy here, he's traveled the country carrying the torch. I mean, that's actually pretty epic, and it's probably talking about, you know, 1 in a quarter million chance of going to do something like that. So that's pretty awesome. So
yeah.
I wanted you to share that story because that's pretty heartfelt. So
it was 24 years ago, and it's still very surreal to me. So that we got to do that. So it was.
And I've seen some pictures, and that I mean, it still gives you the chills to see that. That's just impressive. So yes, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks.
So you talked about your social work. You talked about being licensed in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. So
New York. Yep, New York.
Yeah, New York, not North Carolina. I'm sorry. The reason why I said North Carolina because I have been with you to North Carolina. So that's just another story we could talk about.
Yeah, we went to the first one together.
Yeah, that's right.
Up in Eden, way up on the Virginia line.
You're right.
Yep.
The big thing, you're not really telling everybody the truth about you, though, because you, my friend, kind of are like in the leadership of some of this stuff. You're not just, I went and did. You're not just, I went and helped a couple. You got your hands in this stuff pretty deep, and you deserve a little bit more credit for what you're speaking about here. So why don't you tell them a little bit about how you're involved in these different states? And like I said, you said it yourself, you know, you just retired. You've been doing this for years, but you just retired. So brag a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what these travels to South Carolina and New York and even Texas and North Carolina involve.
Yeah, so, you know, it takes a village, right, to do this stuff. And, you know, I don't think any of us, especially in the Southeast, actually, let's strike that, anywhere in the country, if you're in law enforcement, you talk about peer support and you talk about the post-critical incident seminar specifically, to talk about any of that stuff and not talk about Eric Skidmore from South Carolina, I think we would be remiss and grossly remiss to not talk about Eric, because the way I see it is he's the father of this stuff. You know, as you know, this model was created by the FBI in the early 80s, and then they stopped doing it, and then Eric basically picked it up, as you know, back in 2000, and it's been having the post-critical incident seminar ever since. And
I think we describe him as the only preacher who committed a theft and never got charged with it because he stole the system from the FBI, if I'm right.
Exactly, that's right.
And turned it into what it is today. And so if he's listening, Dr. Skidmore, thank you for doing that, because there's a lot of cops, there's a lot of first responders, there's a lot of spouses that love you for doing that. Keep on going, keep on going. Didn't mean to interrupt.
They owe everything to him. Yeah, they owe everything to him. So I don't think he stole. What's that they say about imitation? It's the best form of flattery. So he flattered the FBI basically, by taking it. And
he's a charmer. We'll say that. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. But it's you know, we've all had a lot of training in law enforcement where you go to a specific class or for something, and it's great. You leave there feeling good about what you learned, and then you can't wait to apply some of these things to the real world. But the difference between regular training and the end of day 3 at a post-critical incident seminar is there's no substitute for leaving somewhere and feeling different. You just feel better. You feel, in a lot of ways, you feel reborn. You feel rejuvenated. That reset button has been pressed, and you can't replace that. That's why, you know, I said earlier, it's one of those things that you have to go through to be able to really know what people talk about when they talk about PCIS. So South Carolina, they started it, and then it was followed by Virginia, North Carolina. Then after that, Texas started it, and then right after that, we started it here in Georgia. As you remember, you were here for the first one back in 2013. We had 12 that came here that were first responders to the Sandy Hook school shooting from Connecticut. And as a result of that was their first PCIS, and as a result of that PCIS, so it was almost like we were the test case in Augusta for that. And as a result of that, they got help all over the country. They've been to South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia. I don't know if any have gone to Texas or not, but So
there's a good crew in Texas too. I'm gonna tell you, I've worked with them a couple times, and
yes, yeah.
you know, the love that we get every time we go down there to help them, and we definitely feel like home. But I'm gonna tell you, I haven't found one of the state PCIS yet that just does not pour the love out. I mean, it's just unreal. So
right, and it's, you know, for people that are listening, it's not, you know, we joke about holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It's not that. You know, we have
not even close.
Yeah, it's just you know, it is what it is. We always say in peer support, it's a normalization of reactions through shared experiences. And when you talk to someone that gets it, that knows about your sleepless nights, that knows about suicidal ideations and you know, that knows about alcohol, that knows about racing thoughts, and when you can normalize those, and when you can let someone else know that, hey, it's going to be okay. It is what it is right now, but just give it some time. And that's huge, because it's life changing. And you know, when you can make a difference in someone's life like that, that's why, you know, you see people, you see all these retirees that you know, like BK up in North Carolina, or you know,
BK Garrett.
Yeah, BK Garrett retired from the North Carolina Highway Patrol. He always likes to say that he's got 28 years, but 30 years credited, you know. And then Joe Nell, you know, rock star from He Walks on Water to me, just retired from the South Carolina Highway Patrol a week and a half after I did. Yeah. And Joe Nell is going to be working closely with us on some projects that we'll hopefully talk about here tonight. But
Captain Nell, he's down there around that Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area, and I'm gonna tell you, he's another wonderful resource to the program.
Mm-hmm. And he's so humble. You know, that's one of the things I love about him. You know, he's just one of those guys that he walks into a room and automatically, at least for me, my blood pressure drops. You know, he's just one of those guys that's
he kind of glides in the room. He's smooth. He's smooth. He comes into the room and it does. Everybody feels good. Yeah,
you know. But Joe Nell and Aaron Back up in North Carolina, and BK and Eric. I mean, all these people that we talk about, I feel like I've become a better person just being around you guys, and it forces me to be better, to want to be better. It's almost like we all keep each other straight. Well, not Eric. He doesn't need anyone to keep his straight. I guess his wife and girls keep him straight. That's not our job. But
I could agree.
yeah. But no, we went to New York, Texas, their first PCIS, and it was pretty neat going out there as a peer the first couple of times, and then going back as a clinician. That was kind of switching roles there. You know, that BK and Aaron always give me a hard time about that I've gone to the other side, gone to the dark side, so to speak.
Gone to the dark side. That's right. I was going to say it, but you beat me to it.
I'm a peer at heart. I really am.
You still are a peer, because you still do a lot of work with peers, and you know, more often than not, a lot of us are calling on you. I mean, you said a lot of us did a lot for you. I promise you, it's a two-way street. Every single one of us feel the same way about you. I feel the same way about people like Joe Nell, Aaron Back, Eric Skidmore, Andy Gruler. That's another one up in the upstate of South Carolina.
Absolutely.
Any of the crew down in Texas, I'm telling you right now, that they're such great people. West Virginia, I mean, you name it. We got so many awesome peers around here.
Oh yeah, Virginia. That was so I'm sure you've heard Andy Gruler talk about it. Day one, and that's, you know, when everyone tells their stories, what brings them to the table, so to speak, on that first day. We went to 10:30 at night on day one. We headed up there in the Shenandoah Valley, which is a beautiful place. But that was I believe that was our longest day one ever. I want to say we went, 16 hours, 17 hours that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, New York, so they've invited me to serve as their clinical director for the state of New York for their PCIS. And, you know, it was my first time doing it. And, you know, the first time, at their PCIS. The first one we had was over near Buffalo, and you had first responders there from 9/11, and some of these things that you've seen in the news, national news, and you're sitting there right in front of them, and you're sitting there in front of these people, like these godfathers and godmothers of mental health, PCIS, like Andy Grueller, Dr. Terry Rando, who's forgotten more than most will ever know about grief and loss.
And yet another wonderful soul we speak of.
Oh yeah,
Miss Rando, I love her to death too.
Me too. She's like a second mom to me. She's always yelling at me about something. But
well, you need it from somebody, so
you do. So who better than to be and I know but for the listener, she's been on Oprah, Good Morning America, 60 Minutes, Dateline, Dr. Phil, and written a bunch of books.
I was about to say, you got countless. I don't know how many books she's got now. She's got so many great books dealing with grief and trauma, especially, and as a results in death, and some great insight and some great resources. So while we're talking about her, we'll just say that right now. If you're looking for something on that level, she's got some great material out there. Dr. Teresa Rando, I believe she's.
Yeah, if you look Teresa, Therese Rando, and if you do a Google search, you'll be pages and pages of the stuff that she's done. But yeah, she's definitely the go-to person when it comes to grief and loss and bereavement.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah, just being able to work with these people is very, very humbling to me, and I feel really honored to be able to do that.
Well, so you said you're doing the clinical director stuff for the PCIS in New York, and with that being said, you're still involved with Georgia. You're still going to be the director. What's the title there for the whole PCIS in Georgia?
Yeah, so I just retired with the Georgia State Patrol, and I was the director of the Office of Public Safety Support, which House Bill 703 came into law 3 years ago. We got funded 2 years ago. We got $1.5 million to run the office, and again, I can't.
Which I'm gonna tell you, a lot of states are jealous. By the way.
Yeah. Well,
there's a lot of states that are jealous, because that was one of the biggest moves for doing something in legislation for peer support and for CISM services. So,
right.
Hats off and kudos to y'all for doing that, because that really started and paved the way for a lot of things. So,
but the neat thing about that is so we had, of course, I had an ulterior motive in inviting State Representative Jody Lott, and she's
another great soul.
A nurse by trade, has a heart of gold, and we invited her to come to South Carolina to a PCIS, and she could only come to day one, so she heard the stories and couldn't stay for the rest of it. So, and the ulterior motive was, as you know, to run a PCIS, at least in Georgia. We ran the first 7 just solely off donations. Donations only, and it was my feeling that in our line of work, they pay us to train. They pay us to be good drivers, to shoot well, to be able to whether it's crisis intervention stuff or whatever it is, they pay us to do it, and they train us. So they train us to do our jobs, but they didn't really train us to be prepared for what happens afterwards, after a shooting, after, responding to a horrible car crash where kids are killed. So I felt like they should pay for that as well. So that's why we went to Jody, and she was actually able to come to the Sudden and Traumatic Loss Seminar, which is a spin-off of the Post-Critical Incident Seminar. That's 4 days, and so you've seen it. Every PCIS, we have someone that's there as the result of a sudden and traumatic loss of a loved one. Yep. And that can knock the wind out of your sails for a long time. Because you think about it, who responds to suicides, car crashes, murders, accidental deaths? We do. Right. So if you have that in your own world,
so when it happens to you, it changes everything.
Exactly. Majorly. Then how are you supposed to go forward and do your job after that? So God forbid you lose a child in a car crash, what happens when you go to that car crash where a child is killed? How are you supposed to do your job effectively? So that's where the STLS came in. And so Jody, Representative Lott, came to that. And she, hook, line, and sinker, she was in. And I told her, I said, we need money. And we don't need, we still don't want to go out and raise money. And I'll talk about what we do with that in a second. But so that's where the money came from. I remember our commissioner, Colonel Mark McDonough, and we can't talk about, the Office of Public Safety Support without talking to him. He's the guy that he was the guy driving this ship, truth be told. But as I said, it takes a village. Without any of these moving parts, this would not have happened. So I look at State Rep Lott and Colonel McDonough and Colonel Bill Hitchens, who is now a state representative as well. They were the driving force behind this. And so the Colonel asked me to, Mark McDonough asked me to give him a line item budget. So I threw one together, and I asked for $1.5 million, hoping to get $1 million. And we got every penny of it. We got $1.5 million, which never happens. Usually they cut it.
Oh, yeah.
And we got all of it. We got every penny. And that paid for vehicles. It paid for salaries. It paid for the PCIS. It paid for the STLS. It paid for supplies. You name it, training. And so the Office of Public Safety Support was born. I was the director. I had an assistant director, a Georgia Bureau of Investigation special agent, assistant special agent in charge, Wes Horn, who was
Wes. He's a good guy as well.
Great guy, salt of the earth. Yes. And I specifically went to Wes before I asked our agency to let him come on board. I went to Wes first and asked him if he'd consider it. And again, he was in. And so when I retired, I went to our commissioner and assistant commissioner and asked them. First of all, I let them know that I was leaving because that position is not one that you can just backfill with anyone. It has to be someone that obviously is bought into the process, but their heart has to be in it. It's not one of those positions that you can just kind of fake. So I asked if Wes could take my place. Then I also asked for specifically named his replacement as well as the assistant director. And they did. So Sergeant Stacy Collins got the assistant director position. And those two guys have hit the ground running. They're doing great things. So our office is busy. So with one of the full-time peers, Keegan Merritt's his name, he was a Henry County officer that was shot a year and a half ago, and he's also been involved in several shootings. He's got a couple of deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. So he had put me on to someone, a chief deputy with a sheriff's department down in South Georgia that needed some help. He had been through a lot of things, and I just literally got home an hour and a half ago from doing a form of therapy called EMDR with him, and that's as you know, it's a form of therapy. It was developed for trauma back in the mid '80s, kind of discovered accidentally, but it can be used for a whole host of different problems. It can be used for addiction, low self-esteem. All kinds of things. It's some really good stuff, and I was fortunate to have been able to go through that training about 5 years ago.
Yeah, eye movement desensitization. Oh, I almost said it right.
Yeah,
eye movement.
I always had trouble with it.
Yeah, desensitization and reprocessing. There we go.
That's it. Yep. And it's basically, it's like, man, just give me those glasses that you're looking at life through right now and try these on it. Look at your situation a little bit differently. And that's kind of a, off the cuff, layman's way to describe it, but it's pretty successful. It worked today very, very well for this guy.
Well, and it's funny you brought it up, because I'm gonna tell you, a lot of the peers and when we introduce this, or when we talk about this, especially at PCIS events, we call it voodoo.
Right.
It looks like voodoo, but every single one of us has either seen it or have had it done. I'm one of the ones that can raise my hand. I've had it done a few times. But I will tell you, it looks like voodoo, but it works like magic. It is beautiful.
Right.
It does, in most cases, provide relief for the images. That's the best way I can describe it. Am I going anywhere wrong there?
Nope. So there's nothing wrong with calling it voodoo, and here's why I think that. When you know something, when the experts know that it works, but they can't explain why, then you call it voodoo. So
that's true.
No, that's very, very accurate.
Yes.
Without getting into the technical parts, it can. So it doesn't matter whether it's an image, a smell, a sound, a cognition, just a thought.
Video clip.
Yeah, because that's really what it boils down to with EMDR. It's no matter what we go through in life, something that's traumatic, it's not the traumatic piece that gets you. It's what you have to say about yourself as it relates to the traumatic piece. And usually in law enforcement and public safety, that's 5 things. It's powerless, helpless, guilt, shame, and I'm going to die. Usually those 5 things. Once in a while you'll hear a different one, but, because in our line of work, we're supposed to be in charge. We're supposed to, come in and save the day. And if we can't do that and we feel powerless and helpless, that's not a comfortable place for us in public safety to be.
Well, you're 100% right. So, hey, real quick, I want to go on one more topic before we cut this off. You're retired, but I don't think you're done.
No. I retired. Like I said, I retired almost 2 weeks ago, and here I am down in South Georgia doing EMDR with someone today. But I told our commissioner that I'm still gonna. I didn't get into this line of work for the money. So, this is more about, it is a calling, it is. It's not a 9 to 5, punch a clock kind of job. But no. So are you talking about Valor Station, though?
Yes, let's talk about Valor Station. I know about Valor Station. I've been waiting on him to say it. Everybody in this area knows about Valor Station, and there's many first responders across the country that know about this wonderful thing called Valor Station that they are trying to get settled in Augusta, Georgia. Andy, tell us about Valor Station. Just tell us what it's about. We know it's going to happen. Don't know where yet. We're still working those kinks out, but just tell us about it.
Okay. So about 3 or 4 years ago, so our brother, like a brother, Pat Cullinan, who is a big part of the PCIS, he is a huge part, probably the biggest part of our fundraising. He is the biggest.
I would agree there. I mean, he's got a lot of roles. That one of his top roles is he does great with raising some funds for that. I mean, he's awesome.
Yep. I actually met his dad when I got out of the academy before I met him, and Pat served in law enforcement for 25 years, and he retired from the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, and he was actually recruited by the Police Benevolent Association. So he does great things for the PBA. But we had talked, this was about 3 or 4 years ago. So in peer support, that's kind of like where the rubber meets the road. And then kind of the next level after that, and there's interventions that we do in peer support. But the next kind of step on the rung would be the PCIS, Post-Critical Incident Seminar, 3 days. And the next rung on the ladder after that would be outpatient treatment, just for whether it's a counselor, social worker, psychologist. And the next level, the highest level, the highest rung on the ladder is inpatient treatment, intensive inpatient treatment. And Pat and I it was always our dream to have an inpatient treatment facility for first responders only, because they get it. Again, it's a normalization of reactions through shared experiences. So if you're at an inpatient treatment facility with other cops, with other firefighters, with other dispatchers, paramedics, so they get it. They've seen what you've seen. They've done a lot of what you've done. So they can normalize what you've been through. you have that credibility right off the bat. So we've always looked at doing something like that. And the Hale Foundation, they were given a piece of property that was donated to them. A donor that lives here in Augusta donated it to the Hale Foundation, and it sits on 20.65 acres, just over 20 and a half acres, it's 13,300 square feet. It was formerly a convent for nuns, Episcopalian nuns. I didn't even knew Episcopalians had nuns prior to this, but that's who was there. And they left and went to North Augusta, I think 3 years ago. And the place, I fell in love with it right off the bat. And you have to go through a subdivision to get there. And we fell in love with it, and we got the ball rolling on it. And so the people that in the neighborhood that you go through were adamant. I mean, they were dead set against it. They didn't want, when you don't want something, you're going to make it look as bad as you can. They looked at it as an addiction, a place for, they looked at it as a methadone clinic or where drug addicts would be. And they painted the picture that there would be break-ins in the neighborhood, people wandering the neighborhood at all hours. And at the end of the day, police officers, firefighters, they're not on crystal meth. They're not on crack. They're on anything that you could get out of your refrigerator, your medicine cabinet, or your, a cabinet at the house. That's beer, that's liquor, prescription pain meds, probably in that order. And that's what they're hooked on. A friend of mine, he came up with a formula, who is in recovery himself, and he teaches all over the country on the addictive brain. The formula he came up with is pain plus your drug of choice equals relief. So if you got pain, you're going to address it somehow, some way. Yep. But unfortunately, that drug of choice, usually it's the maladaptive stuff. It's the alcohol, it's the drugs, it's a sex addiction, it's a gambling addiction, it's retail therapy. It's going to be those things that you have to constantly feed. And meanwhile, those are the things that are going to get you in trouble. They're going to get you fired. They're going to get you divorced. They're going to get you locked up. So there's another way to do that. What if we stick that another drug inside that circle? So what if we go pain plus helping others equals relief? And that's another big component of peer support, because we get so much out of helping others. So that's our feel-good drug, is helping others. It is for me. That's probably been mine too. I would agree with that. And you see a lot of that with the peer team members that we work with. They'll tell you that they get a lot out of attending these PCIS as a peer team member. Absolutely.
Because it helps them still to this day. For me, I can speak of it. My incident, I can't say incident, my first incident, 13, 14 years ago now. And to this day, I go to a PCIS and I still take something away from it. It helps me with dealing not just with the first one, but the second one, the third one. I've been through several. And it's wonderful. And when you and Pat came forward with this whole idea, and we started hearing about it, and Pat started telling people about it, it was, I can't think of one person that said why. It was more like, it's about time. Mm-hmm. That's how I kept hearing it. It's about time. I'm like, you know what? The sad thing is, and I since I've been doing this, I'm going on my 13th year of helping first responders at this status. The big thing about it is a lot of times they won't ask help because they don't think nobody will know what they're going through because they're first responders. And then B, they don't want to trust anybody who ain't a first responder.
Right.
So if you've got a first responder place that they can go to get all the help they need, it's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It's a great idea, a great concept. And just to know people like Cliff Richards at the Hale Foundation, when he was presented this idea. I've had this conversation with him, and you're probably going to hear from Cliff in upcoming shows because he's on the list of people that I want on this show. But Cliff had no idea that there wasn't something out there for first responders to go get treatment. And this guy is the guy who helps men with addiction.
Right. He's a rock star.
I mean, that's his foundation. That's where he's the president. That's what they do. They help men, but he had no idea there was nothing specializing for first responders. So,
yeah. So Pat,
it's a big deal.
It is. So Pat always likes to tell the story that he and I went to Cliff and proposed because they were turned down for zoning the first time. They tried to get get it rezoned for an inpatient treatment facility for addicts, and they were turned down. So the way the neighborhood and the few opposers looked at it, they just thought that we were trying to throw them a curveball, say, oh, let's tug on the heartstrings, and since, we'll make it about first responders, that way it'll go through. It wasn't that, I remember I did my clinical rotation when I was in school at the VA for a year. I absolutely loved it. Loved working with the vets. And I remember there was a poster there that said it takes courage to ask for help. And, I talked about the normalization of reactions. Well, I hope we're starting to make the turn that it's normal to ask for help. You don't have to have courage, but it gets to a point where it's just the norm to ask for help. It's if I could be so bold as, everyone talks about police reform, police reform this, police reform that. I would hope that all of us in any profession, it doesn't matter what you do, you want to improve. You can't stay stagnant. You can't stay still because you're going to get left behind.
Right.
Police work is no different. So that is police reform. It's wanting to do better. Now, we can disagree on what that means, what that looks like. But to me, I don't care what your view is on police reform. If you don't look at reforming individuals first, then police reform as a systematic approach means nothing. Because unless officers, firefighters, whoever we're talking about, we'll just say police since that's what we do. Unless a police officer's reformed, it doesn't matter what a state law says. It doesn't matter what policy says. It doesn't matter what the law says, or rules say. We're left have to follow if we're not okay ourselves. So that's the whole point of Valor Station, is reforming people, individuals, one at a time.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Hitting the nail on the head there. That's for sure. So, well, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm appreciative of you. I am very appreciative to know you, and I'm very thankful that somebody took your steering wheel and turned you into this career that you've had, this rewarding career that you've had, and what you've done to better the CISM world, the mental health world, the peer support world for first responders. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't think you'll hear thank you enough, to be honest with you, Andy.
Well, I get so much out of it. I really do. It's not a quid pro quo or scratch my back. I'll scratch yours. It's just, you know what I mean? It's hard to explain. I mean, it's you almost feel guilty being told thank you because you get so much out of it.
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh no, thank you. It's that kind of thing. So I knew I'd either do this or go back on the professional motocross circuit. It was one of the two, but I'm 55, a bad back, bad knee. I figured this would be the better option.
And then you still got your hobby. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
so that's
this Joker loves some beautiful muscle cars, y'all. Some beautiful old cars. He sent me a picture of some tonight. In fact, I'm gonna put that picture up in a minute just because they're beautiful cars. Maybe if he'll let me. Anyway, Andy, hey, thank you for your career. Real quick, give me a quick final thought. The last thing you want to tell our SOS friends out there, just give them just take us on home with this. Go ahead.
I would say support not just law enforcement, support everyone in public safety right now, because with what's going on in the world right now, we have turned against ourselves. And, it's not just what police officers and firefighters and paramedics go through. They're going through something that's called a moral injury right now. So not only are they having you to endure the violence, the horrible images, the work in ungodly hours, it's the ridicule from the public and even their administration for them doing their job, but they're not doing it right in the horrible and almost impossible conditions they're asked to carry out these duties. So when moral injury meets trauma, that's not a good thing. So, I know mental health is kind of a buzzword right now, especially when COVID first kind of started back in March, April, when it really started to spread. Now you throw in this, it's been a perfect storm. So, support us. That's all I can say is support what we do, and because at the end of the day, everyone that serves you, they have families too. They're human at the end of the day, and until we can find robots to do our job, bad things are going to continue to happen. And I would just say, if you could do anything, just support us.
Well, and I said the same thing on my first show last couple of weeks ago. The biggest thing that right now would be helpful is just to reach out and say thank you, and I support you. If you're a first responder, tell your compadres that. If you're a first responder spouse or a first responder family, send them a message. If you're just a friend of a first responder not in the world, dude, they love hearing that they're appreciated, because right now, more than not, especially in the media, we're not seeing thank you enough. We're seeing what we're doing wrong in their eyes. So I agree with you, Andy. And again, I appreciate you. And hey, 33-year career, you did an awesome job, but it ain't over yet. We're ready for Valor Station both. So let's. No,
I feel like I feel like I'm
just getting started.
Yeah. So I didn't have. I wrote an article a couple of years ago on retirement anxiety and depression, which is a very real thing. But the number one reason that people get anxious when they retire is they didn't have a real plan. Going into retirement, they're so focused on leaving the job, something that they've known for 20, 25, 30 years. They don't say, oh, now what? They get to that point, but that's not having a plan. So I had a plan, and plus it's kind of been an easy kind of segue into retirement because I'm still around all the people that, I really care about and have worked with over the last, however many years. So it's been a very easy transition, and it's been very comfortable. Yep. So I feel very fortunate, very blessed.
There might be a little bit of jealousy from the Sarge on you there. Just saying, not quite ready for retirement. I'm not quite at the retirement number yet. I'm close, but I'm not quite there. So I will say that. Andy, thank you for being on the show. This is the first SOS call for the show, and I'm glad to have you as the first SOS call. So we'll probably have you again on in the future, because I'm sure there's going to be more to talk about when it comes to Valor Station, and then when it comes to mental health and first responders, especially between Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, or New York, and wherever else you end up helping out. Because I'm telling you, it just seems like everywhere we turn around, Andy's helping somebody here and there. So thank you for what you do, sir.
No, thank you for having me. For the next one, we talk about fishing, fishing or muscle cars. And,
I was about to say, why fishing? Why not muscle cars? Man, when I think of Andy Carrier, I think of fast police cars, and I think of muscle cars. So fishing ain't even coming to mind.
That's just to feed my ego, the muscle cars. Now the fishing, that's my place of solace. If we talk about fishing, not all of it, but a good portion of it will be true. What I have to say about fishing. There will be some fish stories. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, we'll just have to go fishing and create another story then.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
There we go.
Yep.
All right, Andy. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again for listening, friends. Let me tell you, we are greatly appreciative of your support of the SOS show, the Striped Onion show, and we are just as grateful for the friends we have inside our CISM network. Don't forget to share today's SOS call on your social media platforms. That is critical to getting the word out. And also make sure to leave some comments on whichever platform you listen to us on. We will respond to you. Visit our website at some point, thesosshow.com, and check it out. See what we have there. Sign up for the email notifications about shows and events we have coming up in the future. This is all about the first responders, about their support circles. So we want to make sure that it is impactful. And until next time, we hope everyone has a great day and a great week. Y'all stay safe out there, and God bless.